Alright guys, in this video I am going to explain the TCP handshake and talk to you guys about why computers do this and how it's different than HTTP. So a lot of people, whenever they first start analyzing traffic and they connect to a website, they probably expect just to see HTTP. I mean, you just look at it, you're like, alright, I think I got this figured out. I'm going to send an HTTP request to a server, and hopefully it's going to send me back one with whatever file that I requested. So, this is interesting. All this TCP stuff going on before. I mean, is this important? What the heck is this? Why do I need it? Well, the difference between HTTP and TCP is this. HTTP is basically saying what type of data you're sending and also how it should be formatted and read. That way, whenever the server starts getting all this data, it's not confused. It's like, okay, what the heck is this? Is this Skype traffic? Are you trying to upload a file? Are you trying to, access a database? What the heck are all of these ones and zeros? Well, if we say, oh, this is HTTP, now the server knows, okay, so you probably want to connect to my website, and this is how I am going to be able to read it. I need to follow HTTP's rules. So that's basically what HTTP is, what the data is, how it's formatted, how the server is supposed to read it. So TCP happens before you even make that request. So TCP is basically saying this is how we're going to connect. So nothing about the actual data or what you're sending. It's saying, okay, I'm a computer and I want to connect to this server. So before I start sending you all these requests for pictures or whatever, we need to establish some ground rules on how we are going to be connected, for how long, what protocols we use, whatever. Alright, so here we have this green dude right here, and he wants to connect to this web server. So, I don't know, maybe someone made a really cool web page and he wants to check it out. So he needs to find a way to do that. Well, before he can send it an HTTP request, he needs to check with it to make sure that he can actually connect to it in the first place. So the first thing that he's going to do is he's going to send something called a SYN. Now, this is actually a synchronization packet, so that's why it's SYN. It's basically him asking, hey, can I connect to you? So the server, once it hears that request, it's going to send back an SYN ACK. So this is the synchronization, and this ACK stands for acknowledgement. So it pretty much says, I acknowledge that you made a request, and yeah, sure, go ahead, you can connect me. Now the last part of this handshake is this client sends back to the server one last ACK. And this is pretty much him acknowledging that the server responded and him saying, okay, cool, thanks. Now at this point, after this handshake, they are now connected, and this guy can now make an HTTP request for whatever, dank meme he wants to look at. So again, before you can request any file from a web server, 3 different connections need to be made, and this is called the TCP handshake. The dude needs to say, hey, can I connect? The server needs to respond, yes, sure you can, and then the client goes, okay, thanks, cool. So just remember that at this point in time, no actual data has been transferred, and I'll show you guys something else cool. So select this first packet right here and expand TCP, and actually if you right click and expand all the subtrees, you see that right now it's just sending a SYN, a synchronization. So you see this flag right here, you see that all of the other ones are zeros, but this synchronization flag is set. Now, if we look at the next part of the puzzle, the server, when it gets that request from the dude, is going to send back a SYN and an ACK if he's allowed to connect. So if we look at that packet, you can see, actually look in the top, this guy sent a SYN, this guy, the server, sent back a SYN and an ACK, and if we look at in detailed, we can see that all the bits are set to 0, except SYN and ACK. So the server is now acknowledging that the guy wanted to connect, and he sent back those 2 bits. So the last piece of the puzzle for this handshake is, this is where the client heard the message from the server, and he's sending back to the server, okay, cool. So that's just an ACK. As you guys can see, he's acknowledging, so he's sending back that bit. So they now can connect, and he now can request whatever dumb file he was looking for, and there you go. Now, if you ever find yourself trying to connect to a server and it's not sending anything back, or maybe it's sending back something but not sending an ACK, this may be happening because of a couple reasons. First of all, if it's not responding at all, then the server may be down, or you may just be typing in the wrong address. And another reason that it's not sending back a send in ACK is because you may be blocked by a firewall. Maybe they just are, not allowing traffic from your computer, so they blocked you, whatever. So that is the basics of pretty much the difference between HTTP and TCP. TCP is a protocol, or the rules on how we are going to just connect to each other. HTTP is a specific type of data, how it's packaged, and how it should be read. Now, we understood that the TCP handshake, three-way handshake, that's how the initial connection happens, and then they can pretty much request whatever they want. Now, at the end of this, when the user closes out of his browser and goes to McDonald's, do whatever he's doing, they pretty much need to say goodbye to each other, and this is pretty much both computers acknowledging that the connection's over, the conversation was great, but every good thing comes to an end. Now, I'll talk to you guys about what happens in that process. So whenever the user got his file, so this was the HTML file that he wanted, he's happy, he's all done, and what he's going to do now is he's going to send something called a fin. And I guess the guy who invented this TCP must have been Spanish speaking. So this is pretty much saying, alright, I got what I needed, I am leaving now, connection is over. So the server, whenever he hears that, he's going to send back a fin ACK. And this is pretty much just saying, goodbye, I acknowledge that you're leaving right now, and the server says goodbye to him. And just to end things, the client, or this dude, he sends back an ACK, and this is just his way of saying, okay, I acknowledge that you said goodbye, that you ended the connection. It's pretty much like a phone call, where this guy says, hey, I'm done talking to you, and the server goes, you know what, I'm done talking to you too, and goodbye, and the client goes goodbye, and then they just leave. So that's a really, the most untechnical overview of how that works. And if we look in Wireshark right now and we scroll all the way to the bottom of this, we can see that, okay, this is the client right here, and he's sending a packet to the server, and that's embarrassing. Alright, so this is the first piece of the puzzle where the dude's saying, okay, I want to end the connection now. Now this right here, we see that there are two packets coming from the server. So got that ACK and got that fin ACK. Pretty much the server saying, okay, you know what, I'm done with you too, goodbye, hanging up the phone. And the last thing the client does is it just acknowledges to the server, you know what, I heard you say goodbye, I am now leaving. So that's the process of TCP and the handshake, basically the client getting permission from the server to connect, and also at the end when they say goodbye, that way they can both acknowledge that the connection's over, don't have to worry about it anymore. So TCP, I know it's incredibly fascinating, but I don't know, I think it's pretty cool how all this happens behind the scenes. So there you go, now you have a little bit better understanding, and yeah, pretty sweet. See you guys next time.